Imagine a seemingly small act of defiance, a protest fueled by frustration and principle that would ignite the flames of revolution. The year is 1773, the place, Boston Harbor. The event, a group of colonists, disguised as Native Americans, taking matters into their own hands and into the water, in what would become known as the Boston Tea Party. But this wasn't just about tea. It was about liberty, taxation, and the burgeoning spirit of a nation yearning for independence. Join us as we delve into the mystery behind this iconic act of rebellion. To understand the Boston Tea Party, we need to brew up a bit of background. For years, tensions had been simmering between the American colonies and Great Britain. The British government, burdened by debt from the French and Indian War, looked to its colonies to contribute financially. This led to a series of acts that the colonists found increasingly oppressive, particularly the concept of taxation without representation. They argued they had no say in the British Parliament and therefore should not be subjected to its taxes. The Stamp Act of 1765, which taxed printed materials, sparked widespread protests and boycotts, eventually leading to its repeal. But the underlying issue remained. The Townshend Acts followed, imposing duties on various imported goods, including tea. Again, colonial resistance flared, with boycotts proving effective in pressuring the British to backtrack on most of these taxes. However, one tax remained, a symbolic yet significant one, the tax on tea. For many colonists, this wasn't just about the money, it was about the principle, Parliament's right to tax them at all. Enter the East India Company, a powerful British trading entity facing severe financial difficulties. To bail them out and reassert Parliament's authority to tax the colonies, the British government passed the Tea Act of 1773. Ironically, this act actually lowered the price of East India Company tea in the colonies, even with the tax included. So why were the colonists still furious? Because it granted the East India Company a near monopoly on the tea trade in America, undercutting colonial merchants. More importantly, it reinforced the detested principle of taxation without representation. In Boston, a hotbed of revolutionary sentiment, opposition to the Tea Act was particularly strong. Figures like Samuel Adams, a skilled orator and political organizer, rallied the colonists. Committees of correspondence helped to spread information and coordinate resistance efforts throughout the colonies. The arrival of ships carrying the taxed tea, the Dartmouth, the Eleanor, and the Beaver in Boston Harbor in late November 1773, set the stage for a confrontation. The colonists demanded that the tea ships return to England without unloading their cargo. However, Thomas Hutchinson, the royal governor of Massachusetts, remained firm, upholding British law and refusing to grant permission for the ships to depart without paying the required duties. Days turned into weeks, with passionate public meetings and heated debates echoing through Boston. The standoff was reaching a critical point. On the evening of December 16, 1773, a pivotal moment arrived. A group of approximately 60 to 150 men disguised as Mohawk Native Americans gathered under the cover of darkness. Their intentions were clear: to prevent the tea from being unloaded and the hated tax from being paid. This disguise was symbolic, representing a rejection of British authority and an identification with the native land they now claimed as their own. They marched towards Griffin's Wharf, where the 3 tea ships lay anchored. With a determined resolve, they boarded the vessels. Witnesses describe a surprisingly organized and efficient operation. The disguised colonists proceeded to break open 342 chests of tea, methodically dumping the contents into the frigid waters of Boston Harbor. The estimated value of the destroyed tea in today's currency would be well over $1 million. The act was carried out swiftly and, remarkably, without any violence towards the ship's crews or other property. By the next morning, the harbor was awash with tea leaves, a potent symbol of colonial defiance that reverberated throughout the 13 colonies. News of the Boston Tea Party spread like wildfire, igniting a mix of admiration, outrage, and a growing sense that the point of no return might have been reached. In Great Britain, news of the Boston Tea Party was met with fury. King George III and Parliament viewed it as an act of blatant rebellion and a challenge to their authority. Their response was swift and severe, enacting a series of punitive measures known in the colonies as the Intolerable Acts, and in Britain as the Coercive Acts. These included closing Boston Harbor to trade until the destroyed tea was paid for, altering the Massachusetts government, allowing British officials accused of crimes to be tried in England, and the Quartering Act, which forced colonists to house British soldiers. In Great Britain, news of the Boston Tea Party was met with fury. King George III and Parliament viewed it as an act of blatant rebellion and a challenge to their authority. Their response was swift and severe, enacting a series of punitive measures known in the colonies as the Intolerable Acts, and in Britain as the Coercive Acts. These included closing Boston Harbor to trade until the destroyed tea was paid for, altering the Massachusetts government, allowing British officials accused of crimes to be tried in England, and the Quartering Act, which forced colonists to house British soldiers. Far from isolating Massachusetts, the Coercive Acts had the opposite effect, galvanizing support for the beleaguered colony throughout America. Colonists saw these acts as a threat to their own liberties. Representatives from 12 colonies, Georgia did not initially attend, met in Philadelphia in 1774 for the First Continental Congress. They condemned the Coercive Acts, called for a boycott of British goods, and began to organize colonial militias, inching closer to armed conflict. The Boston Tea Party, though seemingly a singular event, was a crucial link in the chain of events leading to the American Revolutionary War. It dramatically escalated tensions between the colonies and Great Britain, demonstrating the colonists' willingness to take radical action in defense of their principles. The Boston Tea Party, though seemingly a singular event, was a crucial link in the chain of events leading to the American Revolutionary War. It dramatically escalated tensions between the colonies and Great Britain, demonstrating the colonists' willingness to take radical action in defense of their principles. So, was the Boston Tea Party simply rebellion in a cup, or was it something more profound? It was a bold act of defiance against perceived tyranny, a watershed moment where colonists chose direct action over passive resistance. It symbolized a growing unity and a commitment to the ideal of self-governance. While the road to revolution was long and fraught with peril, the tea that was dumped into Boston Harbor on that December night helped to irrevocably steer the colonies towards independence. What do you think was the most significant consequence of the Boston Tea Party? Was it a step too far, or a necessary act of resistance? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed unraveling this pivotal moment in American history with us, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next historical mystery.